Now that our program is completely built and we've got something that works, what I would like to do now is to teach you a little bit about some of Visual Studio's debugging capabilities. I've shown you the start to run the program and whatnot, but what are some of the other advanced capabilities of Visual Studio? So if I click on this Programs window right here, and if you don't have the file open, you can look at the Solution Explorer tab right here, and it's this program.cs file is what I'm in. Right here, this function is static void main. This is the entry point of the program, so this is where it starts the execution of code. These things right here are stuff that was auto-generated for us. And it starts here, it creates our form right here, and then it runs the application. So in my debugging menu, I've got different options. I've got start debugging, start without debugging. I've got step into and step over. These are some handy ones. I've got one for toggling breakpoints, new breakpoints. Another way you can set a breakpoint is if you right click, or if you click right here in this area, you can set breakpoints. If you set a breakpoint and you right click it, there's different things you can do. You can disable it, delete it. If I disable it, it's still there, but it's not going to necessarily stop on it. If I re-enable it, it'll stop. I can set conditions. Different things. Some of my keyboard shortcuts. So I've already told you about F5. That starts the debugging process. F10 is a useful one because it steps into the program. Steps into, steps into, steps into. Oh, sorry, F10 is step over. So that's what that does. So if I step over, step over, step over, I'm got a function call. I'm going to run the program until I step back out. So I can run those several times. And then when I go to close my program, it stepped out, and boom, I've got my execution again. Another one is F11, which is step into. So now instead of stepping over and having the window pop up, it's going to step into and execute all this code that's in there. I've got my initializers right here as part of the class in line, so it does those first. And then it's going to do some of the other ones in another file. And then I hit my constructor, and I do the stuff in the constructor. And this code right here is stuff that was generated automatically when we built our form. And as we were here in the designer moving stuff around, it edited that file that we were just in. Right here, the form1design.cs. And so it's executing that code right there. Say we get to the point here and we're confident that the rest of the program is going to do what this function, this method is going to do what it's supposed to. There's also a step out. If you hold the shift key while pressing F11, it steps back out of that method, assumes everything's going to be okay, and steps out, and I'm back into my form1.cs. If I step into it, I can check this out and make sure that's working properly. 3 minus 1 is 4. I hit the enter key, so it's going into that method like I want it to. Well, I hit a key. I didn't hit the enter key. I just hit a key. If I hit the enter key, then when I step through, it should go into the button click. Check that out. I got the answer wrong. So let's hit executing that code. Nice little way to check to see what's going on. As you notice, when I hit my switch case to generate my new question, it jumps right over the 0 because math operator must be equal to 1. And if I mouse over it, it shows me what it is. I've also got some other things that I can do. If I right click this, I can go right here to add watch. And it opens this window for me, which is my watch values. So here's my variable right here. Here's the value it gives. It shows me the type. I can do that with A as well. I want to add a watch to A and I want to add a watch to B. That way I can determine what's going on and whatnot. I want to, let's say I don't really care to watch answer, but I can take this statement right here, this A minus B, and I can add a watch to that. And Visual Studios will show me what A minus B is at all times, or as I'm running through the program. I can also add a watch to here, the A.2 string. And notice right here it's got this little refresh symbol. This is a method call. And it gives me the last value for the last time it was executed. But if I want to know what it is right now, I can refresh it. Because A might have changed, but the method call didn't get called again. And I can delete these watch points. I don't really need them anymore. Just some basic troubleshooting techniques. If I look at this window right here, I get my Diagnostic Tools. I get some information about how my program's performing. I've got some events. I got how much memory I'm using, how much percentage of the CPU I'm using, some little statistics. Sometimes I keep an eye on this little graph right here, but usually I don't worry about it unless I'm doing something really intensive. For a program like this, we don't have any loops or anything, and we don't have any places where we can get a deadlock or anything, so we shouldn't have to worry about any of that stuff. In a future lesson, when we start learning about loops, I'll mention some stuff about that. We also have a button right here, a couple buttons. This is a pause button. This stops the execution of the program where it's at. And the program right now is just waiting for user input. If we hit the F11 key and step into that, and then we give it some input, all of a sudden now we have where it's executing at. So we can pause our program if we think that we can't tell what it's doing where it's at. We can pause it, get an idea of where it might be having the issue. If we hit this button, that stops the execution of our program. And another thing that sometimes is useful is this little arrow right here that tells where the execution of the program's at. If I decide that I have an issue and I need to change some code right here, I can actually drag this around and set a particular point to get a particular result, even though that's not where it was at. Just a little interesting tidbit. I don't recommend moving that arrow outside of the method that you're currently in. That's probably not a very good idea. If I move it outside of it, I get an error. That's actually good. I wasn't sure if it would do that or not, but That's good that Visual Studios is catching that, but if I want to skip all this code, I can drag it around wherever I need the execution to be. So just be aware of that. Little things like that do help troubleshooting. When I'm doing a good job, it feels like I spent about a quarter of my time writing code and about 3/4 of my time debugging the code. It's usually good practice to debug often. Write a little bit of code, test it out, write some more code, test it out, write some more code, test it out. If you do it that way, then that's typically what it feels like. It's about a quarter of the time actually writing the code and about 3/4 of the time finding what's wrong with the code and making sure it works. If you write a whole bunch of code without testing, oftentimes you spend a lot of time trying to find that bug. It only appears sporadically, and it's very difficult to find. So test frequently. Anyway, that's it for debugging. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day.